Hello, welcome to group lesson. My name is Bjork and this is I. And that, my friends, was my Bjork impression. Take it or leave it. Bjork, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, composer, actress, author, and she makes music too. Bjork is a one-of-one artist, producing over 10 albums that have sold 40 million copies together with multiple high-charting album debuts. She is comfortably one of the most influential pop artists to date with her eccentric and quirky style that she brings to her music. Pair that with a hell of a right hook, you have an artist that has won over 140 awards and has been nominated for 340 more. Her legacy is cemented by a wide range of artists that she's influenced over the years. She could have stopped making music 5 years into her career and she still would have been regarded as someone that pushed the boundaries of pop music and gone down as one of the most influential artists of her generation. There is obviously a lot to say about Bjork. It's literally Bjork. But today I will be going into her albums and tier list ranking them because that's all I know how to do. Thank you so much Paperhouse_3919 for the request to do Bjork in my next episode, which is this one. And if you want to request an artist or band, go ahead and leave a comment down below and there's a good chance that I will want to do it and I might post a video about it. So let's get to it. So we have the tier list over here, every single album that she's created and Fossora twice for some reason. So we might as well just go ahead and start with her debut album. So for context, my Bjork knowledge up until this point is pretty limited to just a few songs over my entire lifetime. So I was going into this pretty fresh and I was blown away. So I'm just going to go ahead and put her debut into the A tier. This is such a strong debut, and at this point can still stand tall as one of the best albums in her entire discography. This is a beautiful dance album that has some insane vocals that really caught me off guard sometimes. I don't really know why. I don't know what I was expecting going into this album, but this was insane. It was incredible. It was passionate. It was so danceable, and I loved it so much. What I love about a good debut album is that it can stand alone by itself in a vacuum as a great album, but when you put it into the context of their career, you could see that it sets a great framework for the albums to come after that. However, one thing about Bjork is that she can always keep you guessing. So if this is a framework that you are expecting throughout her entire career, I'm sorry. But this is still an incredible album and the birthplace of Carolyn Polachek. So that's pretty fire. All right, moving on to the next one, we have Post. Where is Post? It is right here. And I'm going to go ahead and move Post onto the S tier because Post is so good. This carries a lot of the art, dance, poppy elements from the last record and pairs it with elements of trip hop and a more electronic production style that just produces such an incredible album. In just 3 small years, she has shown that she is going to be a titan in forward-thinking pop music. You can tell from this album that she just does not intend on stopping. My favorite part about Bjork is she is such a weirdo. She definitely has played up to the version of herself being this quirky and eclectic character, and that always shows up in her music because this album has so much character, more character than the last album. And I think this is the start of a gradual shift that her music is going to start making to the more electronic heavy side, because one thing about her is that her music is going to change a lot, and this, her second album, is starting to shift away from that dancey house element that was so prevalent on the first album. But a very consistent and beautiful album from start to finish. I loved it so much and it lands comfortably in the S tier for me. Now we have arrived at Homogenic, which I will just go ahead and put it straight into the S tier again. And this is just the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. We have officially arrived to my favorite Bjork album, and it is so early in her career and it is so freaking good. I love it so much. I struggled to find a lot of favorite songs from these earlier albums because honestly she provides so much songs to love and that I love. But Bachelorette, I can't even comprehend this song, it's so good. And this just echoes the entire album, just pedal to the metal, mind-breaking electronic pop music. This is where I find the album that I think defines her as an artist. She is obviously an artist that is hard to put in any kind of box with the music that she makes, especially in the middle of such a big tonal shift that we are going to just continue throughout her career. But this is just the defining album of her discography. You will find a lot of qualities in this album that's, even if just a little bit, carry through her entire career. It's just that those qualities are so present on this album. They are perfected and they are comprised in the perfect Bjork album. One of the best experimental pop records of all time. You can take this away from her entire career, and it is an incredible journey from start to finish. So that is why I have placed it very comfortably in the S tier. I'm actually going to switch it around like that. Then we get to Vespertine. Rate your music ass music taste. No, I'm kidding. This album is obviously good. A huge contrast from her last album, Vespertine seeks to take it down a couple notches. Just punched my computer. When Björk was commenting on this album, she sought to, and I quote, create an overriding aesthetic of being homely and comfortable, and that is something she absolutely delivers on. This is such a divine and beautiful album. It really gives off such a mystic and whimsical vibe, and when that is heightened, it feels truly cinematic. It's full of love and life, introducing some more folkier and ambient elements to the project, and it works so well. This is pretty much the consensus best album from internet nerds and publications alike, and I can definitely see why. While it's not my favorite album, it is bar for bar an incredible album. You cannot put that down. There is so much more insight out there than from what I can give it. I'm just some person. This album has been talked about to death over decades, so there's not much more I can say about it, except it's obviously such an amazing album, and you definitely should go listen to it. Alright, and now we get to basically halfway through her discography with Medúlla, and I just wanted to make a comment that, I'm sorry, a lot of the positivity is going to be front-loaded in this video because I think this is where we start to lose it. With the 4 albums being such incredible genre-defining albums, we start to kind of take a little bit of a nosedive post-Vespertine, and so naturally it's just kind of going to be a lot of slightly negative to negative comments from here, so I'm sorry in advance. But we've got Medúlla, and I'm sorry, but I don't really like this. That's not even Medúlla. I'm sorry. That's Medúlla. What I can always appreciate about Björk as an artist is that she is always going to try whatever she wants, whenever she wants, and I admire that so much, but this just did not work for me. It is, of course, technically impressive what she is doing with just her voice, and I love the idea that you can just sit here and listen to these songs, listen really closely, and be able to be like, oh my god, that's her voice, but that's kind of where it ends. The beatbox elements were just not for me. The acapella pulls away from the more impressive songwriting and song structure that was so present on the last albums. There was a song, I don't remember which one it was, that does a little thing the whole time, and it was the one song in her entire discography that I had to skip. I could not do it. I am so sorry. And that is why it lands in the lower end of the C tier for me. It's still Björk is what it's got, but not my favorite. Next, we have Volta, and I like this. I was surprised to see that this album ranks towards the bottom on pretty much every site, everything, because I didn't think it was that bad. I think it's okay to slightly above average in comparison to the rest of her career, and it's certainly better than the last album and some of the other albums on this list. But that might be a hot take. I don't know. If you disagree with that, let me know. But I thought it was really fun to see Timbaland featured as a co-producer in some of these songs, being that Timbaland is one of my favorite producers of all time. And for the most part, the blend of talent really works. It returns to some of the more poppy elements that we've seen on Björk albums before, which for some people can be a good thing. What I think I can gather from her discography is that people might be split on wanting to go back to the more poppy, eccentric elements, or maybe go to the more experimental side of her discography that really pushes the boundary even if it doesn't land very well. So I can see people being split on wanting her to return to the roots that she established on her first 3 albums. And if that's you, you're kind of going to be disappointed. But that's not me. I just want to listen to some good music, and this was good. And then we just kind of slide back down into fine territory for me. Next up being Biophilia, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the C tier as well. This album kind of lands in a kind of forgettable range for me, except for the lead single. I compare all of these albums to themselves and a standard set by Bjork, because in the greater idea of the music industry, she is still innovating and creating a sound that no one can say is not her. This is Bjork, it's always been Bjork, and it's always going to be Bjork and nobody else. So that is good, but it still falls short on my list, and it's just kind of something that I'm not really gonna come back to. And now we're getting back into pretty good territory with Vulnicura, which I'm gonna put in B tier as well. So this is an album that is spawned from her encountering really hard times in her life, coming from her splitting up with her partner of 10 years, which obviously causes a lot of negative and passionate emotions, which she pours so much into this album. She said that this was kind of something to take her away from all of her negative feelings, to focus on something that is productive rather than just being sad. Which, you're allowed to be sad, but she is being sad in a way where she is creating something, and it shines through on this album. It is more reminiscent of her earlier albums, which, you know, for some people is going to be a big positive. It's impressively produced, incredible instrumentation, enough Bjork to fill up a dam. It delivers a pretty good product, and that's why it lands on the B tier. And now, the ebbs and flows of Bjork's career take us back down to the C tier with Utopia, which for me just sounds like one really long song. When I was listening to this avant-garde electronic folk album, I kept having to check my phone because I did not know when one song ended and the other began. It kind of just all melds together for me. Which, standing at an impressive 1 hour and 11 minutes, which is definitely on the higher end of average album lengths, that is certainly not something you want to be. But what I can say about Bjork is that whenever you're listening to something, you will never not be impressed, at the very least. It's just being impressed doesn't always translate to having a great final product, and I don't think this is a great final product. And then we finally land into the final studio album of Bjork so far. She's 60. I'm half convinced that even when she does pass, she's going to be creating music through a spirit box.
It is oh so
But regardless, this album is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put it, I think, on the higher end of B tier, almost A tier. But we're gonna keep it on the higher end of B tier. This album deals with a lot of messages of isolation and grief stemming from her losing her mother, and also the COVID-19 pandemic, which is something I'm sure everyone can relate to. And those messages are certainly present in this album as one of the most personal and passionate albums that she's created, even this far into her career. I especially love the use of industrial and noise that she put on this album, which is not something that she is new to, because this has been in other albums as well, but it is just great on this album, and I think better than she's ever done it. A good album to end a crazy Bjork journey. So this is my official tier list ranking of all the Bjork albums. Homogenic and Post at S. We have Debut and Vespertine in A. Fossora, Volta, and Vulnicura at B. And Medúlla, Biophilia, and Utopia at C. Which I've seen a lot of variation. I know there's going to be a lot of people that might not agree with me, bad or good. So if you don't agree with me, please put in the comments what you would do, where you would put these albums, because I would really love to hear it. Just no fighting. I feel a little off, like I said, having the back half of this video being so slightly to kind of negative one after the other, because I don't think it is indicative of her as an artist at all. With her first 4 albums innovating an entire genre to create a sound that nobody has heard of before. And after 50 years of doing this, she is still pushing the boundary of what instruments can do and what music can sound like. She is one of the most influential artists to date, and she could have stopped making music halfway through her career and still be one of the most forward-thinking, boundary-pushing artists we've ever heard. And that's not to say that the back half of her career in any way diminishes the work that she did on the front half, because it absolutely does not. She is a creative, she is an innovator, she is amazing, and I hope she never stops making music. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and if you like learning or listening to music and want to follow me on my journey of music discovery, please hit the like button, hit the follow button, and if you want me to go through any particular artist or band's discography for another video on this series, then please comment it down below. I will respond, and I might do it. Who knows? This was a suggestion, so always try. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.